Thank you so much for joining us. Let's acknowledge the Honorable Prime Minister, Roosevelt Skerrit, as well as Minister Kozia Frederick, who has just joined us, the Cabinet Secretary, and the Permanent Secretary in the Office of the Prime Minister. Members of the media, welcome. Those of you tuned in via various media, welcome to you. The Prime Minister will address you briefly, and then he will take your questions. Please welcome the Honorable Prime Minister, Roosevelt Skerrit.
Thank you. Morning, everybody. Comrade was there, CAPSEC and PS, and the press present, and of course those following by live broadcast. Good morning again. And thank you for joining us for this morning's press conference. I take this opportunity to extend condolences to you, the members of the media fraternity, on the passing of your esteemed colleague, Ken Richards. Mr. Richards was a highly regarded regional journalist who reached the pinnacle of his success with the BBC Caribbean show. Many of us were familiar with his firm, no-nonsense approach to journalism and broadcasting. And I think his passing is a great loss to journalism in Dominica and indeed the entire Caribbean. I sympathize with his family and I wish him peaceful rest. I also wish to take this opportunity to extend best wishes to the students sitting the national assessment exams over the next 2 days. That is today and tomorrow. I urge them to take their time, read the questions carefully, understand what the question is asking, and provide the appropriate responses. And I believe we have come a long way in terms of access to secondary education. No longer it's a time when the Ministry of Education knows who would have passed, because there's a maximum number of students that they will accept on any given year. But every child has an opportunity now to attend secondary school since 2005. Over the past 2 days, the death of an 18-year-old girl of Portsmouth has gripped the attention of our nation. Though the facts of the case are not yet clear, I condemn in the strongest possible terms this obvious act of violence committed against Colonel Benjamin. On behalf of the government of Dominica, I offer deepest condolences to the parents of Colonel Benjamin and others affected by this brutal act, and we commit our efforts to the protection of Dominica's children. Based on information shared in the public, there appears to have been a history of child sexual abuse associated with this particular case. We all agree that such heinous acts against our children should not be tolerated. As I have previously announced, in conjunction with the passage of 5 family bills in the Parliament, the Cabinet recently approved the restructuring of the Social Services Department and Welfare Division to address matters relating to the care of children, women, the elderly, and other vulnerable groups in our society. As part of the restructuring, additional trained staff will be assigned to the Welfare Division to improve our response to matters of child abuse and to ensure appropriate and timely action is taken to safeguard our children from all forms of abuse and neglect. Additionally, a subunit of the Commonwealth of Dominica Police Force will be created with specially trained officers to respond to and investigate child abuse matters and other family protection issues. I wish to remind us, however, that the protection of our children is everyone's responsibility. The safety and well-being of our children should be the shared responsibility of parents and families, the schools, the community, government, and non-governmental organizations, including our churches. Let us together focus on building a strong, responsive child protection system and strengthening prevention and early intervention services intervention services for our most vulnerable. Also, as an immediate step, as we seek to implement the measures in the laws which were passed in the Parliament, I have asked the Ministry with the responsibility for social services to quickly convene a consultation of all relevant stakeholders to bring this matter of child sexual abuse more sharply into the spotlight, identify the gaps, and determine a way forward that moves our nation past the talk into more concrete action to protect our children. Today, June 1, marks the start of the hurricane season. The experts have predicted a near normal Atlantic hurricane season with 12 to 17 named storms in 2023. Of those, 5 to 9 could become hurricanes and 4 could become major hurricanes. I don't know why they call it near normal, because 1 is too many, far more for 4 becoming major hurricanes. In Dominica, we are also hurricane experts, in the sense that we know all too well that it only takes one devastating event to shatter livelihoods and cause major upheaval to our lives. I wish, therefore, to take this opportunity to remind you of the importance of early preparedness, which strengthens your ability to respond if we are impacted by a major storm. I won't spend time this morning listing the measures which you can take, as this will be done by the relevant government departments over the next days and throughout the hurricane season, only to encourage you to remain alert and take the necessary steps to safeguard your families and property. The government of Dominica has demonstrated its commitment to keeping you safe by increasing shelter capacity, strengthening response mechanisms at the community level, introducing new building codes to ensure safer, more resilient structures, and increasing awareness of disaster risk and response among our population. As is customary, the National Emergency Planning Organization, NEPO, has been activated, and the government of Dominica stands ready to help you navigate the hurricane season, as we have always done. Let us all pray for the best, but keep our guards up. I want to provide an update on the second such visit of the Minister of Tourism of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to Dominica last week. One matter which came up for discussion was the collaboration with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to advance the Road Enhancement Project. We have held discussions with the Saudi government about the funding of this project, and a follow-up team will be in Dominica within weeks to advance those discussions. We certainly look forward to this, as the Road Enhancement Project is a national priority. Our discussions with the Saudis also touched on building strategic relationships in culture, infrastructure, agriculture, and tourism. In fact, an offer is on the table to share expertise with Dominica's Ministry of Tourism on tourism marketing and development strategies. A team will be visiting the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia very soon, so that we can learn from the wonderful work that they're doing where tourism is concerned. Both public and private sector entities will participate. I can also provide an update on the planned construction of the Goodwill Secondary School and 5 primary schools, which will be funded by the government of the Republic of China, namely the Thibault, Bellevue Chopin, Calibishi, Sineku, and Tetmon primary schools. The most recent communication received from the Chinese, dated May 19, 2023, indicates that the project is now in the tendering phase and close to the commencement of construction. In preparation for the construction activity, the government of Dominica, through the Ministry of Education, will very shortly finalize the temporary relocation of students for the duration of the construction period. as well as the demolition of buildings at some of the sites, including at the Goodwill Secondary School. The government of Dominica has worked diligently to repair schools severely damaged by Hurricane Maria, and I look forward to adding these 6 schools to the list. Indeed, I am sure the people of these communities are quite relieved to hear that construction on these facilities will very soon commence. So this is some wonderful news that we are at the final stages of the procurement processes to get the schools started. And I know every one of these communities is excited about this, especially the Goodwill students and teachers, all of whom are doing a fantastic job in keeping the students together. Before I end, I wanted to touch on a matter which has been discussed publicly in the past weeks. That is the decision by the government of Dominica to enhance the Douglas Charles Airport, even while work progresses on the construction of an international airport in Wesley. I understand this may have caused some confusion for some of you who wonder why these 2 projects will be happening concurrently. There are very practical reasons for this. The timeline for the construction of the international airport is about 4 years. During that period, we expect further expansion in the tourism sector and an increase in visitor arrivals. In other words, activity at the Douglas Charles continues. Our partners, namely American Airlines, have advised us that due to the length and limitations of the runway at Douglas Charles, they have experienced difficulty flying in, especially when there is bad weather. The fact is, it is problematic for large aircrafts to land safely at Douglas Charles when there is low cloud cover or any sign of adverse weather conditions. In many instances, American Airlines has had to circle the airport several times, eventually giving up and returning to Miami. So we have listened to the airline's concerns and recommendations and decided it makes economic sense to implement some changes now to maintain existing relationships and attract new airlines into Dominica. These improvements are meant to improve capacity at Douglas Charles, ensure that American Airlines continues to fly into Dominica, and ultimately increase visitor arrivals into our country. We cannot afford to suspend economic activity during the 3 to 4 years that it takes to build an international airport. The Douglas Charles Airport must be maintained to ensure the safety and security of airlines flying into Dominica, as well as the comfort of passengers using the facility. I assure you that the projected economic benefits far outweigh the cost of the improvements we are undertaking. Work is expected to get underway within the next month, and we will continue over a 4-month period. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Prime Minister. As we've always said, one of the main objectives of these press conferences are to take your questions, which we imagine you're posing on behalf of the Dominican people. And so I see that Carlisle John Baptist of Nature Al News is ready. Carlisle, your first question.
And if you are so aware, then is it not a security risk? That is follow up to that one. And also, I was told that there's a vehicle being driven by the Deputy Chief of Police, it's TN099. That vehicle came from Ross University, and the research is that that vehicle was transferred by Ross to the police, but it is not insured. and people are expressing concern about that. PM, if you're aware, what steps are you going to take to ensure that that vehicle is insured, because it is on the road in Dominica, and people are saying that, look, our vehicles, police are stopping us with our vehicles that are not insured, etc. And look, the police is driving a particular vehicle, TN099, that is not insured. Thank you.
Thank you very much. In respect to your question that passengers who are leaving Dominica go through immigration, as you know, this is becoming a global trend. When you go to, I've been to many European airports. I don't go through immigration. You go to the counter, check-in counter, and you go through security. The same is same case in the United States of America. You don't go. You only come in. You go for immigration. But when you're going out of the United States, you don't go for immigration. You go through the airline counter, and you go for a number of checks, security checks, where they have the right to ask you for your passport, your boarding pass, and to search you thoroughly. And I believe that there are 1 or 2 Caribbean countries who have adopted that same practice in not subjecting you to immigration checks. We have decided that this is an initiative that we should seek to emulate. As recognized, we have removed the need for Dominican people, holders of Dominican passports, coming in not to fill the embarkation card, disembarkation card. You only fill out the customs declaration form. And we've also allowed for visitors to Dominica to fill out these forms online, electronically, to improve efficiency, to improve passenger experience, travelers' experience for airports. But we also have what is called the Advanced Passenger Information System. So before the plane lands, the security personnel would know who is on this aircraft, where the person is coming from, have all the passport information that you need. This is why the United States removed the need for us to fill the ED cards going into the United States, because they know way before you land in any American port that you're on the aircraft, and if they have interest in you, they'll pull you aside and interrogate you accordingly. So yes, this is the case, but everybody goes through security checks. Your bags are searched, you're searched, questions are asked of you. It's a matter for us to see how it goes, but we don't think that there are any real security threats or concerns the country is. So we'll see how it goes. We just started it a couple months ago, and if there are any issues that we identify, we'll seek to have them addressed. But I wish to allay the concerns of the person, that there's no real security concerns here. The issue of the deputy chief of police driving the vehicle that's not insured, I think that's a responsibility of the accounting officers to ensure that all vehicles that are in their care, as accounting officers, that they pay attention to these things, that the vehicles are properly licensed, properly insured, that they go to servicing at the appropriate time. When they get themselves involved in an accident, the financial rules require that they call in the police, they have a police report, and they make claim on the insurance. That's a challenge we have in the public service. Lots of accidents of government vehicles, no police reports, and therefore no claims on the insurance. And then the Treasury has to pay for the repairs of this vehicle. And sometimes they're written off, brand new vehicles written off, and no money to the treasuries. And I think accounting officers have a duty, have a fiduciary responsibility on the law to account for this, for state property entrusted to them by virtue of their position. So that's a matter for them. I'm sure they're all listening, and I'm hoping that, I'm sure that matter will be dealt with before the end of the day. And that vehicle will have insurance cover. I'm sure you may very well find other vehicles like that within the public service. I won't be surprised at all because it's something that sort of a neglect on the part of our county officers to pay attention to that. Okay?
Prime Minister, good morning to you.
Yeah.
Curtis Matthew from DBS Radio. You made reference to the murder of the 18-year-old girl at Portsmouth recently. And in recent time, we've also seen murder, shooting death in Granby, and of course the discovery of a baby girl on the home in Point Michel in recent time. You've also mentioned some measures the government will take to arrest some of these incidents. Prime Minister, do you think that the time has come for a new approach to policing in Dominica? And while we talk about policing in Dominica, we also know that Daniel Carbon, the police commissioner, the police chief, will be making his way out, will be leaving, exiting over the next few months. Has the government considered a police chief from out of Dominica, or are you looking at somebody from within? These are the first two questions. I will ask another round very soon.
Yeah, thank you. In respect to the incidents you reference and whether there should be a change in approach of policing in Dominica, obviously, you know, policing has to evolve, and it's an evolving practice because crimes now are taking a different complexion in our world today, Dominica included. And this is why we have had to put in so many different units, create so many different units in the police force, providing with particular training, etc., etc. So you have a challenge. We're collaborating with external partners, whether it's the French or the UK government, the American government, RSS and other regional governments. We are all collaborating very closely on enhancing the security of our region and enhancing the security of our countries. Our spend on national security has increased. It's increasing every year because of the demands that this is placing. The reality is fighting crime is a societal responsibility. I'm hearing, for example, in respect to this situation in Portsmouth, many people are saying, oh, they suspected, or they knew, or they saw. But what did you do during that time? What did you do? What did you say? You know, so we have to stop being observers and being more engaged in the process of stopping these things from happening. Because these things will happen overnight. It's not a one-time incident. It will be a build-up of incidences, and therefore people are seeing, people are hearing. You know, if we're in the home, any home, and these things are happening, we have a duty and obligation to stop it. The police can't come in your house if they don't know. You know, and this is why within the police force we're putting in a special unit to investigate crimes against children and the vulnerable specifically, so that specific resources are attached to investigating those cases and ensure that those cases are brought through to the courts and that we can successfully prosecute the individuals. But it's going to take the entire society to play its part to really combat this stuff. We strengthen the laws, we put in new pieces of legislation, new legal frameworks in place, additional human resources, additional financial resources, but that is not going to be alone enough to combat it. It's going to require every one of us to play our part in this. So we're on to this. As I said, they have directed the Ministry of Social Services to convene a meeting so that we can discuss and not wait for when an incident like that happens. And that's the problem. We become concerned when an incident happens, but we have to be continuously concerned. You know, we have to be continuously concerned and not be part of this. And even with regards to the publicizing of these things and making comments and videoing these things, we have to have a sense of civility and reverence and respect. Not everything that we have to video and post and you know, and sometimes family members see their loved one for the first time on social media, you know, and we have to understand the traumatic impact this can have on families. If they're at their homes outside of Dominica or wherever it is, and they see it on social media that their daughter, the son is on the streets murdered or something like that. So we have to be a little more sensitive to this, because that's not helping. We're sensationalizing this stuff. So instead of people helping somebody, they're recording this thing to post on TikTok or Facebook. Yes, the current police chief will, I will maybe later this year, proceed on pre-retirement leave. There has been no discussion from the government standpoint about bringing in a person from outside to be the police chief at the appropriate time. The mechanism within the Constitution will be triggered to address the issue of the vacancy that will exist in the Office of Chief of Police. But I must say that Mr. Daniel Cabon has done a fantastic job under very difficult circumstances, with so many natural disasters and external issues to deal with his men being stretched to beyond measure, and he has been able to steer the security of the state with all of these demonstrations and protests taking place, and you have to be assigning resources to this. All things considered, I believe that he has done a remarkable job in securing the people of Dominica, and I think he must be commended for that. Okay.
Yeah, as it relates to the crapo, last time we said we'll leave that for this week. Can you give us an update as to what is the latest, what has been done and what is being done to bring it back to where it once was?
The mountain chicken.
Yes, the mountain chicken.
Yeah. I mean the mountain chicken in Dominica suffered debilitating health issue, where the muscles muscles became very weak and unable to move around. We had partnered with a UK entity, to help us in studying the issue and advising us on what we need to do to revive the mountain chicken population in Dominica. There was some success to it, because after some years passed, we started hearing the crapo in various parts of Dominica. But of course, with the Hurricane Maria, that affected their ecosystem and habitats in a dramatic way. So as of now, you know, the crapo is almost extinct. Almost extinct. So almost extinct. So we're still pressing on with it, because it's an important part of our ecosystem. It was once our national part of our national dish, and so we continue to work from the Ministry of Forestry and Wildlife standpoint to see if we can have sightings in the forested areas of Dominica and so on. So it's a challenge for us. Yeah.
Prime Minister, last night we heard the UWP leader, Dr. Thompson Fontaine, call for a voter ID card, and he also mentioned campaign finance reform as part of measures for electoral reform in Dominica. Where is the Prime Minister on these demands as far as it relates to electoral reform? And what is the very latest Prime Minister on electoral reform for Dominica?
Well, I mean, everybody knows, and the UWP knows, that we're all waiting for the report from Sir Dennis Byron. You know, and I know that they're in touch with Sir Dennis Byron, and I know that he's indicated to them that very soon he will submit a report. And what he's seeking to do is to create unnecessary perception or situation in Dominica to give people from outside, because every Dominica knows, it's people outside they're talking to. People outside they're talking to. But the people outside also know what's happening. And so the issue, we're waiting for Sir Dennis Byron's report. Once we receive the report, as we indicated, we'll make it available to the public. There'll be public consultation, and we will take it to the Parliament. There's nobody in this country who is more frustrated about the delay of the report than me. I want this report, and I want to have the matter dealt with in a swift and emphatic manner, so that there will be no other issues that opposition elements in Dominica can use against myself and this government, because they all know that this government is doing a fantastic job in managing the economy of Dominica in these very difficult and trying times. That in extraordinary times, we have about 400 plus homes being built, roads are being built, international airport that we waited for over 53 years to start to build, it's being built, that we extended the runway to allow for the sustainability of the flights of American Airlines and others coming in. Hotels are being built, you know, so investments are taking place in Dominica, that we've gotten a replacement for Ross University, that is the Canadian American School of Medicine, and they'll start in September. So there are a number of wonderful things happening in the economy, and I would like to put this issue of electoral reform at the back of the country so that we can focus all our energies on everything. You know, so and by the turnout you can see that the Dominican people are not interested in what they're saying, because people know what's happening in Dominica. People know what's happening in the rest of the world. You know, everybody in Dominica has a relative outside Dominica, and every family outside Dominica will tell you that what they would have purchased for $100 is now costing them $200. You know, that they have to move out of their apartment because they can no longer afford the rent. The rent has gone up dramatically, and they have to shark in it for a friend for the time being until things are settled. It happens every day in the world, you know. And we're talking about things that happen in developed countries, you know. So people know what's happening. Dominicans are bright people, they're smart people, and all of these people that we have Central University, now the place is even brighter. You know, so, but they're poor turnout. All I would say as an aside is that Mr. Linton did call this meeting to deliberately embarrass Thompson Fountain, because he knows that Thompson Fountain leader is out of the country. And there's a call for him to step aside as leader of the party. So there's another opportunity to expose the fact that he's out of state, because the average Dominican thinks that Thompson is in Grand Four. But Mr. Linton wants Dominican to know that he's not there. And they made even a strategic error by allowing him to address send a recorded address from Sudan. So, but I have work to do. I can bother myself with these side shows, but you know, so we have work to do. But issue of electoral reform, we're very strident on this. Once I get the report, the next day I make it available to the public.
Yeah, but I ask a specific question about the campaign finance reform,
yeah.
and of course, the other one has to do with, as I said, campaign reform, finance, and a voter ID card.
Yeah.
Is that the way you intend to do it?
It's a national ID card. I don't want voter ID card. We have passed this argument about voter ID card. It's a national ID card the government is going to put in place. That's what we always agreed on. That's what we always discussing. The issue of campaign financing is a matter for the Dominican people to understand carefully. When you talk about campaign finance, so for example, take the United States of America, United States of America, for example. They have campaign finance laws in place. You can choose to accept money from the Treasury of the United States or not accept. So Mr. Trump did not accept money from the Treasury. He raised over $1 billion. President Obama did not accept money from the Treasury, so he could have raised any amount of money that he raised, and he may have raised close to $2 billion at one point for his campaign. When people talking about campaign financing, they must understand that the Treasury, the taxpayers, are going to have to foot the bills of political parties. And do we want a tax imposed on us or part of the little income tax we pay in Dominica to go to political parties to campaign in Dominica? So when we talk about campaign financing, it's not only about where you get the money from, but when you as a state or the parliament imposes these things on people, then the treasuries of these countries make contribution. The treasuries of this country make contribution. And so the working people of Dominica, the people who are pushing that, and they don't pay any taxes in Dominica, you know. You understand? The working tax-paying people who are going to pay for this. So if you say you're going to have to budget $10 million now every election to share among political parties, right? You have to cut somewhere. What do you cut? Housing, the National Employment Program, the history care program, stop assisting students going overseas to study, provide less pharmaceuticals at the hospital. These are practical considerations that we have to take. There are people who wanted to be politicians, you know, former public officers and private sector people who do not want to be part of the rough and tumble of politics, and they're pontificating from where they sit. You see what I'm saying? But the working people of Dominica, the tax-paying population of Dominica, must understand what it means when you talk about electoral reform. I have no difficulty in we discussing electoral reform and what we believe might be the better suit for. But there's no country in the Caribbean really that has any electoral campaign financing system in place. I believe maybe except Barbados, who has some system in place. And so forth, because it makes no sense to a small country like ours. And the issue of campaign financing and all of the issues that if you as a political party give a man a T-shirt, that person can go to jail and you too can go to jail, you know, so we have to be very careful when we talk about these things about electoral campaign financing. I have no problem if people examine it, but one has to understand the implications of it for taxpayers and for other services that the state has to provide. Because in issue of campaign financing, the Treasury will have to come in to provide for political parties to contest elections.
Ian, recently we saw some Haitian nationals in Dominica expressing concerns as it relates to work permits. This seems to be becoming a burning issue. What is the latest update on that, and what is going to be done to relieve the plight of Haitian nationals who are in Dominica, who are seeking work permits, and who seem to be very frustrated, and also I guess the Dominican nationals also?
Yeah, the issue, first of all, you know, Haitian nationals first started receiving residency permits and citizenship when I became the Prime Minister of this country. And it is in recognition of my own understanding of history and my own understanding of the contribution of the Haitian people to ending slavery and being the torchbearer of the emancipation revolution or evolution in this world, being the first free country in the Western Hemisphere. And therefore, we wanted to ensure that we embrace them as brothers and sisters, not only in words, but in deeds. And that's what we have done. But we have a challenge, not with them coming in, but with them leaving, and leaving illegally. Every time a boat is intercepted, whether it's in St. Kitts or St. Martin or St. Thomas or the French territories, it places a diplomatic strain on Dominica. As a matter of fact, a few years ago, we almost lost our visa-free access into Guadeloupe and Martinique because of that situation. And I had to go to Paris and go to Guadeloupe to speak to the French government to dissuade them from taking an action. And thank God they agreed with me and they did not impose that visa restriction on Dominicans because it's posing an issue with them. What we see happening sometimes with some of the Haitian nationals, even if they have work permits, even if they have residencies or citizenship, when they go to, especially the French territories, and I'm sharing this with the public so that they can understand the concerns which the government has, they destroy the documents. So if they have a passport, they destroy it. If there was a certificate of citizenship, naturalization, they destroy it. So that if you land in Guadeloupe or Martinique, which are part of the European Union and part of the French Republic, and you make a request for asylum, the French authorities are obligated to give you that consideration. So that is the issue we have. So today you see a Haitian in Dominica, tomorrow morning he has left Dominica. And there are many of them who have been here for a long time. They're doing very well. They respect the laws of the country, and they're fine. Notwithstanding the fact that their work permits have not been processed, the police is not out there searching for Haitians to send them home. No. And the police we made regular police that we're not going to go on construction sites or on farms and take Haitians on. That won't happen. Okay? We're going to put a more robust and transparent process in place to facilitate the approvals of the work permits, so that I will put in a task force to review the applications that are outstanding and to quickly address the issue of work permits, not only for the Haitians but also the citizens from the Dominican Republic who are here as well. So we're not opposed to granting them the work permits, but it has to be done orderly with the proper documentation. You know, that the documents are not fraudulent documents, and that we do not place the people of Dominica at a risk or a disadvantage when it comes to our engagement with other countries and entities. But we won't be deporting the Haitians if they don't have a work permit now. You come here, there's work, lots of work in Dominica, as you recognize, Carly, and they're working, and so we'll facilitate the work permits, and we'll put a task force in place maybe, hopefully by Monday or so, Tuesday or so, by the latest, that task force will be named by me, and they will go through the applications and in a systematic, transparent manner issue recommend the approvals of work permits for the non-nationals who are resident in Dominica. So the Haitians should not be they should not be sleeping with both eyes open or one eye closed. They okay. We'll take care of them. But it has to be done orderly and in accordance with the laws of the country as well. I just want to state that with regards to the rest days of the police and the commitment to pay them for the rest days, that was effected in May. So a significant number of police officers would have received those payments, and from all reports, they seem to be happy about that consideration.
But it is tax PM, they say it is tax.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I agree with them. It should not be taxed, but that's the law. Yeah, seriously, I don't think it should be taxed. But for us to would have suspended, I'll have to call a special meeting of the Parliament to suspend that provision of the law. So I think they'll get it some other way, But I agree that they should not be taxed on that. But the law is the law, and the director of audit could have raised an objection if paying waiving the tax that we don't have the authority in law to waive. And it doesn't give the Minister of Finance or the Cabinet the opportunity to waive it at the time. So So we had to tax it, unfortunately. Because even when we gave the double bubble, we had to go to Parliament to have a special dispensation so that it wasn't taxed at the time. Yeah. Yes, please.
Yes, good morning, PM. Good morning, everyone.
Yeah.
Who's watching and listening. I just wanted to, obviously we know that the annual budget is coming up and consultations have already started.
Yeah.
But I just wanted you to, if you could, to speak to the significance of the consultations, why they're necessary to the whole process.
Yeah, it's a very good question. Again, before I became the Prime Minister of this country, the budget process was high security. High security. It was between the Minister of Finance and the Finance Secretary. And they would not even email it to each other. They would, and then the Minister of Finance would read the budget in the Parliament and ministers. And if you were not, in the case of the ULP, Mr. James wasn't the Minister of Finance, so he would have heard the budget speech the first time in Parliament. So it was never shared with the Cabinet. And that was way back in Eugene Charles' days, even up to when I became Prime Minister. When we were in government, we heard it, some of us, we had to be taking notes while the Minister of Finance speaking. And I remember one year, the government imposed a tax on bicycles. and we all turned to each other watching in the Parliament. What's happening with bicycles, tax on bicycles? But it did not make it through the committee stage. We removed it during the approval of the budget. So I have started to democratize the budget process by involving not only the Cabinet and other public officers, but by involving the whole of the country and soliciting suggestions and feedback. And the important thing is that if you realize from all of those budget consultations, they are not being just for cameras and for a show, no. It is done with the greatest of sincerity. And when you look at all the budget addresses and the policy articulations, you will recognize that we have included in the budget, a number of measures which have been recommended by various stakeholders, because we do so with the greatest sense of sincerity. So the consultation continues today and tomorrow, meeting as many stakeholders as possible. And anybody who has any ideas, feel free to write to us, make a recommendation. I get WhatsApp messages, I get correspondences from various people in the country and things they recommend should be in the budget. We welcome those recommendations. So it's an important engagement, and we look forward to that continuing over the next few days. Yes.
Prime Minister, my next question is about the stevedores and longshoremen of the Dominica Air and Seaport Authority and the government's intention to assist relieve the plight of these employees. Remember, they lost their salaries well over 20 years ago, and the government stating that they will move in to assist these employees. I think you mentioned in the last press conference that the government will hold some meeting with the parties involved. Where are we in terms of these workers?
Yeah, I have not had the opportunity to meet with the representatives of the stevedores because the last couple of weeks have been pretty heavy and hectic with so many visiting dignitaries, all of whom I had to meet as Prime Minister. But I'm in touch with the Port of Diaspora. I've asked them to advise me on what is the best offer they could give in the circumstance. And once I receive this, then we'll set up a meeting with the stevedores to hear from them. What are they looking at in terms of a possible settlement? So I am really just I'm not a party to the issue because it's a legal process. I am seeking to just be a convener of these two outside of the legal process to see what what efforts I can make in finding a resolution that both parties can live with, and to put this long-standing sore point between diaspora and the Stevie men to rest. Many of these gentlemen, as I said last time, would have retired, and they have indicated to me, some of them have come to me personally, and some of them apologized to me, because what they were being told was not what they eventually got to know, that what was my communication with their representatives. And so they are really saying, let us find a way of solving this matter, so that whatever I can get, give to me now, because I'm on retirement and I want to settle this matter and to move on. So once I get this from the report, and then I'll see how I can make an appointment to meet with this gentleman to discuss the matter.
Yeah, let me ask another question. Judge, they will win the court matter against the government. They're challenging the public laws of Dominica. In some other jurisdictions, these challenges have worked against the government in terms of the public laws. What is the position of the government of Dominica on the public laws of Dominica?
Well, I mean, we're a government which that respects the Constitution and the laws of the country. The court is an independent arm of the state. The court, in its independence, deliberates on matters before it, and it will make a decision based on how it sees the interpretation of the law. The government has responded to this petition before the court, so we've been representing the country on this matter. We sought to get the churches to be part of this response. They have not been forthcoming in any serious manner, which is strange and interesting. But the church talk about politics rather than matters which are enshrined in biblical scriptures. But at the end of the day, we will respect the law, the court's decision. You're right, there are other jurisdictions within the Supreme Court system, OECS Supreme Court jurisdiction, where judgments have been made. I believe in St. Kitts and in Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua and Barbuda, the courts have ruled in that, and whatever the court decisions, and we will respect it. And so we await the judgment, and the judgment will be made available to the public, and the public will be aware of what the judge says. But we'll see how it goes. But we respect the courts, the court system, and we don't always agree with them, but we respect them. And so two distinct considerations. But it will be what it will be.
I get the feeling that you're sort of waiting for when that decision comes.
No, it doesn't preoccupy. It doesn't preoccupy my mind. You only raise it, so I'm responding. As you recognize, I've not really spoken about this at all. But I'm kept abreast of the court movements from the Attorney General. So I'm aware what the court's attitude is. I've read the judgments coming out of St. Kitts and Nevis and Antigua and Barbuda, and in Belize as well, what the courts have said on this matter. And the reality is, I don't expect the judgment to be different from what has been pronounced in Antigua and Barbuda and St. Kitts and Nevis. So quite possibly that the court will rule in favor of the petitioners, quite possibly. I'm not preempting, but based on what currently exists and what has been done in Antigua and Barbuda and St. Kitts and Nevis have not been challenged. So it has not been taken before the Court of Appeal. So it stands, and of course, judges usually make reference to other judgments, especially if they're not challenged. So I'm not, we don't, that's the world, I guess.
PM, there's been a lot of talk recently, the Bayfront, I think, yes.
Mm-hmm.
The Bayfront, we have the Bayfront vendors, etc., and then the police, we go up there. demolished a place, something on the bayfront belonging to one particular individual. Some people think that it was politically motivated because his place alone was demolished and others are still there. What's the way forward, and how do you address that situation?
Well, first of all, I mean, we have to state the facts. There were no others there. There were no others there. So I think we have to state the facts. I'm not sure of political concern. I do not know the gentleman personally or otherwise. So, so I don't think it is a political stuff. A lot of Dominicans believe that I pay attention to their political affiliation or something. The reality is I don't. And people who know me, I have promoted many people in the public sector and otherwise who are not known to be supporters of the government in an uncharacteristic manner, which wasn't the case before I became Prime Minister. You know, once somebody is doing the job diligently and respectfully, it's fine with me. And so forth. If somebody wants to become a politician, then you view me differently. You understand? And therefore, I don't take on people, but if you don't take me on, then I'm fine. But in this case, we all recognize, and the same people who are saying to clean up the bayfront is unsightly and it's unkept. Some of the same people who are saying, well, we should have left this or left that. The reality is, as far as I understand it, the gentleman was allowed to vend there. But the understanding was that at the end of the day, he would have brought down his thing, pack up like everybody else, and go home. It has become a permanent structure there, built with pallets in the middle of the city, on a sidewalk. There's nowhere in the world that happens. If you go to the United States, that people like to reference, you'll have food trucks and vending trucks, but at the end of the night, they haul their cart away and take it to their homes and come back next morning. So we have no problem with somebody doing that. If the guy has a cart and he's selling there to people, and at the end of the day he hauls it away, then that's great. We can facilitate that, but not a permanent structure. There's no way you can get a liquor's license, because the law is very clear on how you attain a permanent liquor's license. You must have a permanent address. You can't get a food handler's license permanently if you have no water in the place, you have no electricity in the place, something. And what if somebody were to go there? What if somebody will go there and they get food poisoning? You know what they're gonna blame? How could you allow the guy today? No food handlers, he has no water, he has no lights. So we have no problem in facilitating this guy or anybody else. During the COVID time, when we realized farmers were producing heavily and people wanted to buy food, we allow farmers to back up their trucks and the pickups on the bayfront to sell. You understand? Because we wanted to ensure that everybody could be facilitated during that period and so forth. Once COVID ended, everybody went back to the market. And so we facilitated it. Same thing with the vendors. We know that every day, majority of the vendors at the end of the day would have taken their stuff, put on their pickups in the little cars that they would have bought, and take home and come back and set up. We have facilitated them, especially in COVID time, ensuring that people make a $50. They've been there, and the place has become unsightly. Most people have an issue with unsightliness, and we have to ensure that we enhance the visitor experience, and we also enhance the vending experience. DASPA and the Ministry of Tourism has sought to assist them with building certain structures, and they may not have been the most functional, but all of those things were in an attempt to improve the standards so that people don't have all different type of tarpaulins. The tarpaulins are dirty and untidy and so forth. So we try to improve them. I led a delegation of government, and I met with the executive of the Vendors Association and some other vendors, and we had the most beautiful meeting. Where we arrive at measures that we can take in the short term to address the unsightliness of the vending on the bayfront. And after that, we meet again to discuss the long-term solutions to the vending and enhancing visitor and vending experiences on the bayfront and so forth. So, in respect to the gentleman, I mean, as far as I understand, he is a progressive person there, he saw an opportunity, and he started to take advantage of the opportunity. So we have no problem with that. That's why he was allowed there in the first place. But it was not for permanent stuff. It wasn't for, permanence. So my advice to him, I'm sure he'd have made a lot of money there. Go to the 8 bank, get a loan, buy one of these caravans that you can mount up on your pickup, and you can drive to your home and come back next morning, and you can get permission to vend there. But we're not going to allow people to just build all kind of things all over Dominica like this and create shanty towns in this country. Not going to happen. And Dominicans have to be sensible and stop sensationalizing things. The same Dominicans are saying, let's pick on the when you're addressing it, then the same people will come and say, well, why are we taking the people there? We have to be sincere and honest and transparent with what we say, and not to stick to create unnecessary rancor among ourselves. There's no rancor really. So we have nothing personal against this gentleman. I've never met him. I don't think I've ever met him. I don't even know his name. But I have no problem meeting him, so we can discuss. I can suggest to him or advise him on what I believe he can do to be able to operate from there, but not with pallets for sure, or not with old galvanized for sure, or not with old farm work you take from a construction site. Not going to happen in the city. We have to elevate this country and enhance the country, and there must be law and order and decency and pride. So that's my view on it. But political, no, not at all. I don't want to go to bed thinking of Donald Clinton farmer for somebody else. I go to bed thinking about the challenges I have to confront in Dominica and how I can improve the lives of Dominican people. I know they go to bed thinking about me and waking up about me every day. They even, when they call your wife, they even call my name. And then you're like, oh, so.
But I just have a final question. It has to do with the presidency of Dominica. Has the Prime Minister held a consultation with the leader of the opposition on the question of a president for Dominica?
Why I thought you said that I'm going to be the president. So what is, no, at the appropriate time, and in conformity with the provisions of the Constitution, that will be done. But I still have a lot of time. I still have a lot of time to engage on this. So it can be done 20 days before, 40 days before, 50 days before, not necessarily 90 days before.
Once you said you have somebody in place.
Yeah. Yes.
He or she?
A Dominican.
Can I mention a few names?
No. You can send me a WhatsApp on this.
But remember, you give the assurance that you tell me if it's not Curtis.
Oh, okay.
Remember that.
All right, thanks for reminding me.
Forget that one. Ahead of Curtis.
Sure. Okay, and that's it for me? All right, but thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, and it's always an opportunity for us to engage. Lots of exciting things happening, notwithstanding the challenges that we face as a country. Let us work together, and let us continue to do what we need to do in a constructive manner. We'll not always agree, but we should not always disagree on everything. Thank you, and God bless you.